Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the TAC Live on March 23rd, 2023. And the best part about being live, I don't have to try to read introductions through Zoom. We can do it in person, starting with.
I'm Shauna Gauss with the Sonoma County Transportation Authority. Mona Ibrahim, Town of Windsor.
Nathan Duffel, SBI, Sonoma County.
Elizabeth Tyree, Sonoma County Regional Parks.
And I said, City of Petaluma.
Ms. Barney, SCTA.
Steve Urbanik with Sonoma County.
Rob Springfield, City of Santa Rosa.
David Ripperda, Sonoma County Transportation Authority.
Vanessa Garrett, Roder Park.
Greg Scott, City of Patati.
McLaughlin, Sonoma County.
Adam Garcia, SCTA.
Drew Nichols, SCTA.
And Larry Zimmer, City of Healdsburg. That was so much easier. Not seeing anyone from the public, so no public comments.
Is there anybody online?
Oh, yeah, forget about that. No one online?
No one online, just,
Okay.
we only see James Cameron on the.
Only
already.
James.
Still lurking.
Item number 3, Brown Act status and update. Is that true?
Yeah, we're all here in person. I think it was a carryover from last meeting. So if there's any questions regarding the Brown Act and meeting in person, let me know.
Kind of the rules about if someone wants to attend on Zoom, giving you notice
Yeah,
how much
so-
in advance.
Yeah, so there are 2 exceptions you can make to remote into the meeting through AB 2449, has a just cause and an emergency, what's that word? Emergency reason, if you will. Just cause requires the committee's approval. Emergency is emergency. If you know, like a week before this meeting that you will want to remote in, let me know, give me the address in which you will be remoting in from so I can put it on the agenda and you can remote in.
And does it need to be a public place?
It needs to be a public place. I mean, it could be your home, but if you want to open your home to the public, I mean, it's just, it's not
And you want
recommended.
and you want your address on the TAC agenda?
And all that, like you can if you want, but preferably a public place.
But an office setting is going to be relatively easy.
City hall,
2
conference
meetings out of
room,
the year.
Wherever you can post an agenda public.
wherever an agenda can be posted online. And then the 2 exceptions are the just cause and the emergency. So,
Okay.
so if you don't tell me within the 72 hours, then it's a just cause and an emergency. If it's before the 72 hours with the address and with you posting it at that location, Brown Act satisfied.
Okay.
So if we have, Drew, just a
Yes.
quick question. So like for Sonoma County, right? We have 4 representatives here, essentially. If a couple of us wanted to participate by camera, we don't need to notify, just as long as we satisfy the quorum requirements.
Yes.
Yeah,
One-
then you'll be a member of the public
Okay.
in that sense.
One
So no
representative.
commenting or anything like that. We couldn't say I made Hunter come to this meeting next time and I wanted to
Not
watch.
that that's gonna
remotely.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to set this up, Hunter. right? And Nader and I want to watch remotely. Can we still comment on agenda items, or we just have to be observers?
You can comment as public,
As for
but you just can't make
You would-
motions
you would be
and
voting.
Motions and voting and all that stuff.
yeah, it would be
Yeah.
whoever's in person.
Whoever's sitting here.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
And may I point out a possible change that might be coming with SB743? It's about open meetings and teleconferencing for subsidiary bodies. It applies, subsidiary bodies such as the TAC could do the teleconferencing like we have in the past. So that's under consideration right now in the current session. Let's monitor.
And AB 2449 expires in 2028. So we have these regulations until 2028.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. So we'll probably take a vote if we get to that point. I know particularly places like Cloverdale would probably appreciate that.
Many people come from a long way to attend this meeting.
Yeah. Okay, nothing else on item 3. Moving on, approval of meeting minutes notes from February 23rd, 2023. Do we have anyone who would like to add or correct anything? Seeing none, Can I get a motion to approve? So moved. A second? From someone not with the county? So that wasn't any easier live. That was pretty much exactly the same. The approval by Stevens County and second by Mona. Okay, onward. Item number 5, SB743 Implementation. Update, Chris?
Yeah, I know we were gonna take this off.
You said that last week.
I know, there's
or
some
last
activity,
month.
so, yeah, I better talk into the mic here since we have, the Zoom option, but, thank you all for any letters of support you were able to provide for our application for the Sustainable Communities Caltrans grant program to look at BMT mitigation banking and exchanges. So that's in. So right now we're waiting to hear back from Caltrans probably sometime this summer to see if we'll have some resources to get them support to look at those programs for Sonoma County. Other than that, last week, the Bay Area SB743 working groups met. I think Ken was maybe on there and a few other folks, Scott or someone from Healdsburg, I think was on to be part of the discussion there. Caltrans spoke on mitigation, specifically for projects on the state highway system. And then there are a few updates about other mitigation programs. So that's kind of where everyone's at right now. People have kind of thought about thresholds and calculating BMT, and everyone's thinking about mitigation at this point. So there's some good information there, copies of the presentations and also a recording of the meeting if anyone's interested in that I can share as well. So other than that, yeah, just waiting to see if we're successful with our grant application. And if you are still working on setting thresholds and policy, MTC does have their implementation technical assistance program still available. So there's some consultant resources available there. I believe Healdsburg's taking advantage of that.
I think so, yeah.
To get some help in setting thresholds and policy. So that's available as well. So yeah, unless anything else comes up in the next couple of months, there may not be an update until we hear back about the grant application.
Mario.
Policies related to this.
You may need to drag a chair over. Anyone have any questions for Chris on the SB 743? Seeing none, it looks like we do have some online. No questions though.
No, 3 staff, and it looks like Orlando Ramirez from Caltrans.
Okay, excellent. Item number 6, fiscal year 23-24 local contributions to SCTA and RCPA. Discussion. To you, Shauna.
Actually, I think James is going to take this.
James, are we paying attention?
Sure he is.
Yeah, I'm paying attention, but Shauna, can you cover this or David?
Okay.
Now, well, I don't. What I can't do is I can't look at it. But let me give the background. Okay, so the general background of it is such that this is something we do annually. It's an information item that you can all use for budgeting purposes. We did look at CPI. CPI increased by 4.88%. So our recommendation is that we increase the local contributions in line with CPI. You can see there's a lot of history in your staff report there with regard to how we have increased in the past and not increased in the past. By doing it this way, it avoids that big bump up after years and years of not doing it, and it allows SCTA to continue to provide the services.
Thank you, James.
Sorry if I cut out. I'll pass it to David or Shauna now.
So it's a regular item. It's an informational item, not an action item, I think. So this is just to sort of let you guys know that this is coming, and we'll be looking for the New Year's contributions. And that it's going up based on CPI. Consumer price index.
Anyone have comments? Complaints? Okay, thank you for that information and thank you, James. Moving on. We shouldn't go too fast because everyone drove here and sat down in the meeting room. We slow it down a little bit. Measure M, discussion action, starting with 7.1 invoicing obligation status.
Sure, I'll take this one. We bring this to you every month. This is the spreadsheet that includes all the red lines and the yellow lines. And it shows projects that either have an active obligation or have funding that is programmed or was programmed and has not been appropriated. So the red lines mean that the projects haven't invoiced within 6 months, within 6 months or more. And yellow usually means that it's approaching 6 months. So we just have a couple of red lines. There's one for airport. I believe it's the aviation to regional parkway that needs an invoice. And then also Hearn Avenue interchange, not the interchange portion. Yeah, it is the interchange portion. It's phase 3, but it's for the design. And I did get an invoice from Hearn, from City of Santa Rosa, but there were questions. So I will be happy to talk to you about that offline, Rob. Let's do that. Thanks. Other than that, I'd take any questions that anybody has about the invoicing or obligation status.
Seeing none, onward to 7.2 updates to Measure M 2022 Strategic Implementation Plan Programming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So last month we brought you the changes to the expenditure plan, the amendments to the expenditure plan. We talked about it. There were a number of things. I think it might have even been a month before last. But we made some adjustments to the expenditure plan, which is essentially what passed by the voters, right? So we developed an expenditure plan. We took that in a ballot to the voters. That's what Measure M is. That's the basis for it. We're allowed to amend that up to once a year, or actually not in up to, it is just once a year. Once we do it, we can't do it again for another year. We did it, the board approved it. We sent out those notices on the 8th of February. So 45 days from that will be completed. So by the time we get to the next board meeting, we will be asking the board to update the programming based on what was approved in the amendment to the expenditure plan. You may recall that there were a couple of projects, both the Hearn Avenue interchange and the 116-121 project got some additional funding because we took out anything that wasn't programmed but was estimated for those LSP projects and created a separate project that is just sort of the reserve for first come, first served. Whoever's ready to move forward in that program can access those funds. In addition to that, we had a couple $1 million that was added for 116-121 and for Hearn. In addition to that, we've received a request from the city of Santa Rosa because they have a project that's moving forward that wasn't programmed when we did the strategic plan programming. So we're just asking to add that to the adjustments in programming so that that will be an approved programming document in addition to the amendment to the actual expenditure plan, which is what was passed by the voters. And so there's just those 3 items that are getting adjusted. So this is an action item. We are requesting that the TAC consider recommending approval of these adjustments to the board.
Anyone have questions or comments on that?
Yes. Quick question, but you mentioned on the Santa Rosa project that was being added that wasn't part of the initial
strategic plan. So we redid the strategic plan programming last year and approved that. And then once it was actually in 2021, but we finalized the strategic implementation plan in 2022. So that's when that document was completed. In that, you may recall, we do this where we say we do a call for new programming. We don't do a call for projects because the projects are already identified in the measure.
That was the basis of my question. Yeah, it was already previously identified.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Just
And there was an opportunity to add new projects.
I think it was opportunity, but yeah. No. Yeah, that was the basis.
Great.
With nothing else on that, can I get a motion? So moved. A second, seconded. Thank you. With that, it passes unanimously unless someone disagrees. Seeing none, unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 8, regional information update 8.1, the inactive federal obligation status.
Everybody's favorite item.
Some less than others.
My favorite one.
Okay, these printed on my version because I didn't print it out on the 11/17 that it's meant to be on. They're very small, even with my glasses. But Nader has already said that he is going to provide me a written update for all the Sonoma County projects, so I'm going to let him off the hook. I don't see anybody here from Sonoma, so that one is covered. That one is covered. I think that's it. Wait.
Chair, you're just for the minutes, looks like Oriana is on Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
see her
you.
sign in,
Thank
but-
you. So Oriana could address it if she wanted to, but I think it's the same as it has been. We were waiting on the bridge program to be approved so that she could get more money so that she can finally submit her project. So it's not something that she has control over. She's still working on it.
That's true, but we should receive our financing letter, we hope by the end of the month. Like, we're working on it hard and they're actively responding. So I think it's moving.
Fantastic.
And sorry for completely messing up and being on Zoom.
All good. All right, so finance by the end of the month. Okay, there is one project on here for Petaluma.
Yes, so we submitted to Caltrans and they hit it back and we're making revisions to resubmit. This is, I think, the third time.
This is the final invoice package, right? It's the
That is
closeout.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff has been copying me down, so that's good. There's one for Santa Rosa.
Yeah, it should have gone out this week, is from what my AT is telling me.
Okay. All right, there's another one for Petaluma down here, various locations throughout the city, Petaluma, Boulevard North. That one says it's already under, so we can ignore that. It's under consideration, so we can ignore that. That one too. Okay. And then the final one, that last page, that third page, is the one that are the projects that need special attention because they're less than $1,000 is left on in the balance. Most of them are zero. So the projects have been closed out for some time, but they still need, or they've been completed for some time, but they haven't been closed out for whatever reason. Windsor finally got off the list. Very exciting. Yeah, Arata Lane. It's been, you know, a couple decades that's been hanging out on that list, but
can I ask what the problem was to maybe we can avoid having that same problem?
Problem was because everything was submitted like 10 years ago.
So
Okay.
the city had money. They transferred it to Caltrans. Caltrans did all the work. Caltrans didn't do the final report.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the city had, or the town had done everything they were supposed to do. It was just, we couldn't get it off the list. We finally got it off the list. So that was pretty exciting.
I should note those 3 remaining Caltrans projects on that list are trying to close out so we can repurpose some old earmark funds. We have about $350,000 for a bike project in the 101 corridor. So hopefully Caltrans will work on them, but they've been having a revolving door project managers on that board for the last year now.
So that's the last on that item
That was the end of
of
whatever
inactive
item number that was.
8.1. So 8.2 is the HSIP Cycle 11 awards were announced, and congratulations to Healdsburg and Sebastopol, who both received funding. The list is in here for your information.
Excellent.
Did anyone else apply for the set aside funding or do a competitive application for HSIP? Or set aside?
And I noticed that.
I believe Healdsburg applied for 2 projects, and I don't know if one was the set aside or not, but we didn't receive one for one of the projects, but we did on the other.
What'd you get, Larry?
I did minimum, I think $250,000, and it is for like I think an RFB. I wasn't hardly involved in it at all. Just your standard pedestrian safety improvement stuff. Well needed at the location. It's a great project, but I don't have much of the detail.
Would we get it's similar type of pedestrian safety downtown, but we also got the second one was for was it guardrail project near the city county line. Thank you, county folks, for their support on that. It's an area where we have some periodic roll-offs on the slope there, extending replacing, upgrading a guardrail, and extending for that.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other comments, questions on HSIP? Seeing none. Moving on, item number 9, SCTA funding program reminders.
So there was a little bit of chatter before the meeting, but this is a reminder that anybody who received OBAG 3 money, that's one Bay Area grant, cycle 3 money, needs to get their FMS application completed by next week, by the 31st. That is different than what we had announced last month. So I want to make sure, and I have sent emails out, but hopefully everybody received those. The MTC changed what they needed based on what needs to go into the tip. So, because they have requirements that they have to meet by the end of June, which is their end of their fiscal year. So they have to make sure that those changes are made. So we had announced that you could wait until you had your resolution of local support and your housing self-certification, which also requires you to complete your housing HCD certification. That is no longer the case. What will happen is they will put it into the tip, I think, or they will get it, they will get record of it, but you're not going to be able to access the funding until those other requirements are met. And those requirements need to be met by the end of the calendar year. So if there, and I've heard from mostly everybody. I don't think I have information from the county. No, I did get information from you guys. I've got one jurisdiction outstanding. I'm not sure who it is because I don't have the list in front of me. But we need to make sure to get those FMS applications in. Now, FMS has been updated. Hopefully everybody had the opportunity to go through the training that MTC offered. If you did not have the opportunity to go through the training and you need to, Steve and the county got copy of the FMS training that was held online. So that MTC is intended to post it. They just haven't done it yet. So Steve has a copy. Please let us know, let me know, and I'll make sure to get a copy.
You can broadcast.
That's right. That would be great. That would be perfect. And
if you have insomnia, it's pretty good too.
The important thing, the most important thing to remember is click the check button. Just do it all the time. It's the save, just make sure you save everything.
As you go.
Everything, but first so you have to create a project change, which is on the left-hand side. And then there's a box that with rounded corners and it says project change, check, plus, or and then minus. Don't ever click the minus. Nothing good happens when you click the minus. So always. just
Adam
the
said
check.
that about 7 times.
That's right. That's why I'm
Nothing good
repeating.
happens.
Nothing good happens when you check, when you click the minus button. So but just remember that once you get in there, you hit that check button. And then you can come back and forth, and in order to edit, you have to click on the pencil. And that's the case for every field that you need to adjust. And then save. If anybody needs any kind of assistance, I do have notes, and so we'll send out that video, but if it's not in there, I did ask a bunch of questions, so let me know, because I have been poking about in there a little bit, so it's fresh in my mind. I'll be happy to adjust. And for those who did not receive OBAG funding, but did receive SCTA funding program award, please update your project information for us. We need to get a current funding plan and schedule for your project, so we know when you need to have your money, because for several of those projects, they're receiving Go Sonoma funding. So we need to know, are we going to be arranging for a loan between Measure M and Go Sonoma, or are we going to wait until Go Sonoma starts collecting money? When is it that you need your money? You told us when you applied for the funds, but a lot of you said, we can take it right now. We'll make it work. If you want to give us the money, we can take it right now. But the question is, are you still moving forward on that trajectory? Or is it more likely that you're probably going to deliver in 25, 26? You know, I mean, that kind of thing. So if you could provide us with your most recent schedule and scope and budget, that would be great.
And as Shauna mentioned, we're really needing to projects because we're not even collecting those until fiscal 24-25. So we need to advance money from Measure M. And if anyone's delivering this upcoming fiscal year 23-24, we need to know now so we can put that money in the budget, start arranging those loans ahead of time. So if you can get us your updated schedule and funding plan within the next week or two, that'd be really appreciated. So we have a new budget.
So that was going to be my question is when,
yes, and then a
week or two. Okay.
Let's say by the end of the first week of April.
And the form of submitting this update, is there a form or just?
You know, you can, what would be appreciated is if you would update the application form that you submitted. Everybody should have copies of that.
Question about the housing element. Do you just need like the letter from HCD with saying it's substantially complete, or?
That is a good question. Chris, do you know the answer to that? I don't, because that all sort of happens in a black box away from me. And then I think what happens is you get that for your housing element, and then you do your self-certification, and that's the form that you submit to us.
Okay.
That was going to be my question is, since they're delaying this, you still need to do the self-certification if you're assuming you're going to actually get real certification June, July or something, or is that wishful thinking?
I think you're supposed to hold off on submitting the self-certification until you've received some sort of an approval of your housing element for HCD from HCD. So then I don't think it needs to be done before you do it. It absolutely doesn't. Does not need to be done before you submit your FMS application.
Mm-hmm. But before you're able to receive any money, you have to have one or the other, either the self-certification or the actual certification.
You have to have both. Yeah, you have to have
so
both.
You
and it
need
needs
to have a
submitted to
self-certification in addition to getting.
Yeah, I think you do the self-certification, which is your way of telling MTC that you've heard from HCD and that it's good. And that you're confirming. It's like a resolution of local.
Because I don't think that resolution says that. I think it just says you're going to comply with all housing laws.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think you go to council to certify the housing element, and that's your like reso. And then the HCD has been like kicking a lot of people's stuff back with comments. And then they give you a letter once you finally address everything saying it's complete and approved. Maybe that's why I was wondering what we needed to submit, or if we need to go back to council saying, here's this letter from HCD, now we're approved.
That's a question for MTC. Let me ask that.
I'm scheduled to go to council the next meeting with the self-certification, because I thought you just, why not do the
Oh.
self-certification? I didn't know we had to wait for anything out from HCD, because if they're giving us the okay, then it should be good.
I thought
Because that was, it seemed like the directions changed a little bit, or I misunderstood it.
yeah, I understood that you had to put in any exemptions that you had from meeting all the certifications, and that was part of the self-certification. That you're telling them what your exemptions are at this point before you submit it. But maybe I misunderstood it.
No, it's very likely
Yeah,
that I misunderstood.
I'm not a
I will
housing
get
guy.
clarification
I'm
and
just taking
and
direction.
confirm it with the group.
Yeah, finding out if approving that self-certification in advance of getting anything from HCD would be really helpful, because I'm on the cusp of doing that.
I will
Me too.
confirm it this
And they'll know that I'm just doing it to check it out on the bottom.
Okay.
Oh wait, this is getting recorded, isn't it?
And posted online.
I have an action item, Mr. Chair. I will get back to the group as shortly as I can.
And for the record, we have qualified housing people who say it's all good to go. And then so on the FMS, you said due by the end of next week.
Due by March 31st.
Okay,
And that's for me to submit, not you guys. So it needs to be done preferably by the end of this week, but very early next week, if not, because sometimes what happens is I get in there, I look through it, and then it won't submit because you've missed required elements, and I don't answer those for you guys. I just go back and say, you're missing this stuff, you need to put something in there.
okay.
So
It'd be really nice if they had blinking red lights on the required elements.
they have little red asterisks.
Yeah.
They are small though. They get smaller every year.
So on the other funding programs, like Wilson in particular, are there any, in addition, or aside from updating the application form, will there be any of these other type of auxiliary type requirements, housing elements?
We've-
Nothing at all.
I
We haven't
mean,
decided yet.
Haven't decided.
yeah, we haven't
Okay.
written the strategic implementation plan for Go Sonoma yet.
So we'll be working on that this summer and fall, and hopefully have it adopted in December this year. So we're trying to reuse a lot of stuff from Measure M, so it should be pretty familiar, but we might be changing some stuff.
Yeah,
You want
because
some
we've got,
input?
well,
Coming in the committee.
we've got calls for projects now that we never
Yeah.
used to have, so that has to be written up and put in there in that format. And so we'll probably include something about what the application looks like, what the evaluation process is, that kind of thing, and that was never part of Measure M.
And also now that it's in projects, if we don't deliver, we have some process and they get back to them and get something else. So that would be something new. Before Measure M was all guaranteed money. That's all that is.
So we are on funding program reminders. Is there anything else?
That's all I have for the group. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Not seeing anything else. And for those of you online, feel free to jump in anytime rather than raising hands. It's a small enough group. Item 10, SCTA, RCPA board meeting of April 10th.
So Drew is bringing it up online here.
All right, yeah, it's showing. Is this April? Is this March or April? April. Yeah.
There are a number of items under SCTA. We're, as I mentioned, taking the funding. We're taking the program, the adjustment to programming. And then the bond disclosures. That's on consent. And then transit integration update. And the SB743 implementation.
Yeah, is this last month's?
It says April.
It says April on the front, but it does look like some of the
It's also in draft form, so it's possible that we haven't updated everything yet.
My apologies for scrolling so fast for those on those.
I can tell you that the Measure M adjustment to programming will be on the April agenda. And there will also be an appropriation, a cooperative agreement and an appropriation for the city of Santa Rosa for the Santa Rosa, it's not Santa Rosa Creek Trail, it's for Old Redwood Highway / Mendocino Avenue / Santa Rosa Avenue. There's a bike corridor identified in Measure M, and that one is that's one of the adjustments to the programming, and then once that's done, then the appropriation will happen.
The board is also approving the Measure M maintenance of effort adjustments, right?
Yes, that is correct. We talked about those last month.
Yeah, I believe that goes in May.
I believe so. TSC and TDA article 3, I think will be coming to you in the fall, and we'll activate it.
The application is already due for TDA 3.
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe that was announced last month at this meeting too.
Yeah, I think it was the 20th.
That's right.
And we received all the TFC applications, and then just have a outstanding question for city probably that they're working to be able to fund partially fund all the projects we received for TSCA.
Any other comments or questions regarding the board meeting? Seeing none, roundtable discussions. Our little prompts here: grants being pursued, bid environment, other business, comments or announcements. Yes.
I'm very happy to report that we have reached agreement with Union Pacific to acquire the rail corridor for the Cinema Shellville Trail. And we're applying for grant funding. We applied for matching grant funding from Ag and Open Space District. We'll also be applying to the Coastal Conservancy for funding. Thank you to SCTA for your support letter. Thank you to City of Sonoma for your support letter. And also to SMART for their support letter. And thank you, SCTA, for that introduction to the topic. We appreciate it very much. We're very excited to be moving forward with that project. We've been working on it since 1986.
Wow. Congratulations. What's the limits again?
Essentially from the town of Sonoma to the community of Shellville.
Awesome.
4 miles.
4 miles. Well, that's great. Anyone else? Craig was there. We met a new public works director for the city of Cloverdale. For those who don't know, they have been without any engineering period for some time. So it was great to see someone there. Introduced him to this meeting as well, but he's very busy at the moment, and this is not his highest priority.
Is there a name or any background?
I forgot his name already.
Yeah.
He came from private. His focus right now is a lot on utilities and staffing. So transportation didn't seem like his background or high on his priorities at the moment, but seemed like a good guy. So I'm sure they're just happy to have somebody there.
Well, we should welcome them into the group. It's a fun group, and transportation is a great topic. So.
He is on my list, so you got the agenda for this meeting at least.
Yeah, we'll make sure to send him the FMS.
That's just salt.
That would be perfect. Here, you need to do this right now.
Okay, I have something. We went for a bit, so we have an HSIP 10, cycle 10 grant. And it's typical too, just a safety improvement for it's an existing crosswalk, and we were just gonna put a median island, bulb out, flashing beacons, striping. We bid it last year and it came in high, like 43% higher than our grant money we got. So we thought, oh, maybe it'll be better next year. So we opened bids last week and it was worse. So just for that amount of work, the two bids that came in, one was 360,000 and the other was 480,000.
So you only had two bids?
Only two bids.
You thought it was gonna be a couple $100 grand to do?
Yeah, a little over like a couple hundred and. So the other question is, so it's gonna go to council because we have to do a budget amendment. What happens if we don't do it? What's our penalty? I mean, if we just say, oh, thanks, but we don't want your money for the grant.
Yeah, do you know, David? I don't know the answer to that. I have to ask Caltrans.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is for several tens since it's state funding, not federal, but I know for federal projects, we don't do the project, you gotta pay the money back. But
Yeah. If you haven't spent it.
Oh, you
that's
haven't
less
spent
of a
it.
problem than
if you
if you have spent
it's
it.
not an issue.
But there's nothing like, oh, well, we don't think you're gonna do projects again. You're not gonna give you a grant. I mean.
Is there a naughty list? Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there requests for amendment where you can ask for, you know, the project came in way higher and if they have
for
additional
grant?
funding? Yeah, for the,
Use
because we're a
bits
cycle
as
10 too.
support.
Hmm.
I know from my past experience at working in District 10, if you ask local citizens, they would ask headquarters for additional HSIP money for projects. So it might be worth asking.
Okay.
Local citizens say, hey, can I get 50 grand more for this?
Use your
Let's get it on.
for instance, as you support them.
Oh, the state
That's an
grants are
extra.
How much
Yeah, that'd
was,
be a
how much
win.
was your original grant?
240,000. About that.
And when do those funds for cycle 10? By when do they have to be spent and when does that be? What is
I think
2025?
construction has to be done by 26 for us.
Okay.
I think that's-
completed by 26? I was just thinking, I mean, it sounds like the trend is going in the right direction, but waiting for a better environment.
Yeah, it may not get better, especially since inflation. I mean, interest rates just went up. Okay, that's a good idea. So just. Thanks.
Yeah, we haven't put anything big out to bid, but the couple of small things we've had have come in high, all above our budget.
Just had a large sewer project come back. It was bid opens yesterday and it was estimated around 7.5 million and came in 14%.
14%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and higher. I mean, but that was the
Yeah.
it was 14%.
Which isn't too bad on a $200,000 project, but
7.5 million.
are you going to award it at the?
I think they are.
Yeah.
It's Waterman.
Yeah.
Hunter, you want to tell them about your project you just got on the street?
Oh, yeah. So we have a project that's a lot of paving, like seals and Wikia. And then roads throughout the county. There's about 70 different roads that we're doing as part of the project. So we put it out to bid today, and then it should be opening April 18th. It's the current bid opening date. So it has an engineer's estimate of $11 million. So
is it slurry?
There's some slurry, some Cape seals, and a few chip seals.
ADA ramps on?
Yeah, we have ADA ramps and then some guardrail. So various roads.
Do you guys have good records on your treatments and success or life of that treatment?
Yeah, I mean, because we inspect our roads every year, half the roads every year, right? It's not a requirement, but it's part of what the board wanted us to do when they increased our general fund spend on the pavement preservation program. So we do have pretty good records how that stuff's working. And you know, I think the basis of your question, it kind of depends on the road.
Yeah.
So, but we're
there's so much to it. It's the treatment. I mean, it's the condition before.
It's
where
yeah,
you did
I mean,
dig outs, because sometimes you just get, oh, we Cape sealed, but that's not the full picture.
right. If you do an FDR over around the river where you got a lot of cobble and stuff like that, they last forever. If you do an FDR down over here in Rona Park where it's all those fat clays, you know, you might get 15 years out of them. Depends, right? So it kind of it depends on the environment you're building in and the treatment you're using. we're gonna be advertising the 23 PPP, and that's got an engineer's estimate of 20 million next week. So that'll be hitting the streets. So that's taking a lot of aggregate out of the ground again here. So the AC plants will be pretty busy. I don't know if you guys have a bunch of different projects going out for.
Yes, we will
this summer. We're gonna be happy to not be doing these emergency related projects here pretty quick because they're taking a lot of capacity. But that's what Hunter's project is. It's a PG&E settlement money from the fire damage from 2017. We're just not getting
so 11 million followed by 20 million. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we have one more, the tier 2 projects, Hunter, and that's what's the estimate for that? 15?
A little bit less, like 13 and a half. Yeah.
Okay. So knock on wood, they're not 20% higher than our estimates are, because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Or fewer streets getting done.
And we're the storm damage stuff, we're still messing around, right? The usual stuff. Not too bad. We had kind of a significant slide on Porter Creek up by the quarry. If you guys had that, saw that, so kind of worried about this. Monday, when it was raining really hard. Hopefully that slope stays where it's at. And we saw your guys' stuff where you guys are saving the slopes in those homes there. But at least the Russia did get to flood stage, so we had enough gaps in the storms to keep things kind of settled down.
Yeah. Lots of fallen trees.
Yeah, all over the place, that's for sure. That's kind of the biggest stuff for us.
Anyone else? Yeah, Craig.
Just a reminder, it hasn't hit the agenda here, but PTAP cycle, the latest cycle, which is 22, 20, whatever it is.
It doesn't sync with the year.
No, yeah, whatever it is. The awards were announced March 18th, March 19th, and the checks are due I think by the 14th of April, something like that, because you've got the matching that goes off to the state. So that's coming up in just 2 weeks. And it hasn't been really broadcast very well, I don't think. So,
yeah,
who's using that cycle? I mean,
yeah, we got one too.
Okay.
And we typically use it just to supplement our pavement inspection budget. So
the second thing was Katati's got the LPP formulaic grant for $956,000, which has a really accelerated design. It has to go to CTC in June. So we have the end of April as our deadline. And I just wanted to thank David Ruperta for his help. There's FMS, but then for this one, I don't understand it completely, but the CalSmart that you fill out for RMRA, it's got another feature in there, an EPR, an electronic program report. So it's got little red asterisks that are pretty small. And so we've had to make several iterations on that to get it right. And David really stepped in and helped us get that and coordinated.
Hopefully we see everything's going to go smoothly now. I believe CDC did program the project today, so look forward to getting allocated in June. And the nice thing about the EPPR is it does have that checklist thing to tell you did this wrong, fix this before you do it. So
I ended up with 2 finals in there. I'm like, please choose this final because this one I couldn't believe it, So anyway. Thanks.
So thank you for bringing up the PTAP, and that reminds me that if you were in the previous cycle, then your certification report from the consultant needs to be turned in by the end of April. So make sure you get those in.
We just sent ours to SWE. Do you want a copy of that, or
just make sure that you get it into MTC?
Anyone else?
Sure. I should note that we're aware for fiscal year 24 appropriations requests, there were several requests submitted by local agencies, including Cotati for the 116 West Cotati intersection, Windsor project, and SCTA submitted one for State Route 57. So those requests are into the legislature, to Congress, excuse me. So I see what happens. I know Suzanne's going to DC next week to go on a DC trip to do some lobbying. So hopefully we'll get some fair remarks next fiscal year for our projects. Other than that, our Highway 116, 121 roundabout, that one is going out to construction and out to bid next month. CDC allocated the funds today, and it's been a 10-year project for Shauna, so we're all looking forward to construction.
10 years, so she didn't beat you with your 96.
That started as a Caltrans co-op agreement with us.
That's exactly right.
And they wanted $1 million for Bunnell Road, which is basically a trail behind the quick stop over there at the intersection.
Yeah. It's,
We said, no, we
very
don't want to pay that much.
Yep.
Cool, that's gonna be a neat project.
All right, going once, going twice. Adjourn.
Has the